Stay there. For those of you that aren't familiar with our lower Alabama weather, yesterday it was in the 70s. I was working cutting lumber on the sawmill wearing a short sleeve shirt, and today I'm layered up. If you don't like the weather that's going on in lower Alabama, hang around a day or two because it's going to change, and the changes are drastic. I mean, they're up and down, especially this time of the year. What I want to do in this video today is talk about making non-potable water potable. And I don't like to use the word purifying water. I don't like to call it that because essentially we are not purifying it. We are sanitizing it. And I'm going to show you my preferred way to sanitize surface water, whether it's in a creek, a ditch, a mud hole, something, a spring coming out of the ground in this part of the world is still considered surface water. If it's on the top of the ground or anywhere close to the surface, it's not safe to drink without sanitizing. So stay with me and let's take a look at this. What we have here is a resource by our cabin. It's a spring. In a 50-day drought, it doesn't go dry. And what I've done with it is I've simply dug out a hole to make a basin. Bear in mind that this water, like it is not fit to drink or to use for anything other than maybe watering your garden or giving it to your chickens or whatever other animals you have around. For all practical purposes, it's contaminated because it's surface water. Now, I've got my little self-made billy pot and got a bail on it. And I'm going to get some of that contaminated water in the bail. Bear in mind, I'm not touching that water anywhere with my hands because my hands, I may put my finger in my mouth or something and transfer whatever's in that water to me. And the last thing I want on a good day, let alone on a bad day, is to have a bad gut that's got me running back and forth doing the trots. So here we go. Let's go do something with this. There are other ways to make water potable. This happens to be my preferred way. Shirley and I both carry Sawyer Minis in our kits. I've used mine. I've also used the life straw, and they're both effective ways to make water potable. I want to tell you though that my concern with them is that in the process of collecting water, those tools they come in contact with water that is, for all practical purposes, unsafe to drink. And things like Giardia's, cryptosporidium, and all these other bad cooties that'll make you sick, you don't have to necessarily drink them. But like when I got the water in the can, I was careful to not touch anything, the water or any part of that pot that had come in contact with the water. Now, sitting there on the fire, that heat is killing anything that made contact with the outside of that pot. When it comes up to a boil, and here the jury is still debating on how long you have to boil water to make it safe. Some schools of thought say 5 minutes, some say 15 minutes, some say a minute. Some say that by the time it's reached boiling, that it's killed everything in there that can make you sick. Now, I generally bring mine up to a boil and let it boil 2 or 3 minutes. Get it up to a rolling boil and let it boil for a little while. And I've never had a problem with anything using water this way. I will say this, and here's the thing for, people that are new to this scene. The first time you do something like this, it's kind of scary. You're thinking, boy, I could be doing myself harm. And you go about it kind of nervously, but don't let that nervousness, don't let that fear stop you from experimenting with something like this. And don't wait until you find yourself in some type of desperate strait and then try to remember, well, how do I do this? Get out. Experiment, practice, train, and don't let fear, don't let nervousness, don't let anxiety get in the way of developing skills and becoming comfortable in those skills, comfortable enough on a good day that if a bad day did happen to arrive, you're not caught unawares, and the stress factors involved on a bad day don't make the problem worse than it is. Now we're going to let this get up to a boil, and then we're going to take it the next step. Stay with me. Where did I get the pot? That's a good question. I was in the pet food section of Walmart one day, several years ago, and I saw this dog treat container. I got to looking at it. I looked at, the size and that sort of thing, and I thought, that would make a really good pot, a really good billy pot. And so I bought the thing, and I took it home. The lid came with a rubber gasket seal. And I took that off and I threw it in the garbage because it was good for nothing. And drilled a couple of holes and made the wire bell out of a piece of coat hanger. And the great thing about it, not only was the price really nice, but the pot holds just shy of a half of a gallon. Now, when I go on extended hikes and things like that, I like to carry a half gallon of water with me. I carry two canteens, quart Army surplus canteens. And I can fill this pot and boil enough water to fill both of my canteens and do it in one boiling. Now, if I'm simply set up someplace, I can boil a pot of water. I've got enough to cook whatever I'm cooking, and I've got plenty of clean hot water to clean up with. So that's another perk. Now, you can strain this through a bandana or a piece of cotton fabric or some kind of fabric if you feel the need to. This doesn't have much debris or anything like that in it. And I'm going to use some of this to make a cup of coffee. I'll set this pot back here, put the lid on it. Use my fancy stirring stick that I whittled out of a piece of huckleberry. Imagine that. We call this place Huckleberry Hill. The huckleberry bushes growing everywhere. That's pretty hot. It's been off of the fire for about 5 minutes or so. I boiled it for 5 minutes just to be safe. That, my friends, is a good cup of joe. I appreciate you watching the video. I hope that something in this video was helpful. And let me encourage you, friends, get out in the woods. Have a good time. And we'll see you on the next one.